Hello, everybody, and welcome into my latest live broadcast. Today it is Friday, the 15th of September, 2023. My name is Kerry Holzman, and it is a typical Friday show with lots of money on the counter, basically. I try to save the big shows for Fridays, and so this Friday doesn't disappoint. It's been a while since we've looked at some mini PCs, and I try not to do too much of any one thing for too long. I always try to keep it fresh and keep you guessing with what's coming next. Now, I buttoned up the Thermaltake PC here, and before I took it off the counter, I just wanted to give you an idea of what it's about to look like. There is a black ARGB cable in there that's going to be for the SSD. I had to order an ARGB splitter, and the good news is, yes, they do make them. If I go over to my screen capture here, I'll give you show you what they look like. This right here is an ARGB splitter cable. You'll see they're only $7. It basically takes one and gives back two. But you'll also notice if I click back just under the search term of ARGB splitter at Amazon, you'll see there are 1 to 3, 1 to 4, 1 to 4 again. And that may make your cabling a little bit cleaner. Here's one that goes 1 to 6 versus stringing them all together. So I'm waiting for this part to come in, and I didn't want to, I needed the counter cleared. I need the bench cleared for today's review. So I wanted to put everything back together so I wouldn't lose anything or forget which screws go where. But this gives you an idea, basically, of what it's about to look like. It's about 95% of the way there. And I will follow up with another video once I do have the ARGB splitter installed and everything's cable managed. And it'll be a final beauty shot. I've had some inquiries of people that want to purchase this. This is about a $1,300 machine, the way it's built. About $150 of that is the Star Wars SSD. I should say 150 extra. That SSD is $250, and it's a 2 terabyte Gen 4. We can get a 2 terabyte Gen 4 Beijing for $100. So in other words, you could save $150. And I also wouldn't need the ARGB splitter if I took that Star Wars lightsaber Seagate high-end FireCuda Gen 4 2 terabyte NVMe drive out of there, which you can kind of see. Yeah, right. It's to your right of the white water cooler block there. A little hard to see on the camera. This is a good looking computer, and it was really easy to work on. It's big for a mini ITX, but not too big. And it's definitely something that is going to attract attention. So let me clear the bench, and then we'll get ready to unwrap this new Minisforum. This new mini PC, this is a $1,000 mini PC, which right now Amazon has with a $200 off coupon. And this is intended for gaming. This is the HX77G. So we're going to talk about and explore this today together. We'll unbox it together, and we'll see how it arrives out of the box. And of course, I want to thank the folks over at $300 Data Recovery for making today's video possible. We've been featuring $300 Data Recovery as a service to our viewers. They are the least expensive and highest rated data recovery company, professional data recovery company on the planet. They don't really have any competitors. Everybody else that does what they do charges 2 to 5 times more than they do. No exaggeration. Do your own research. Hopefully you never need their services. I hope you always make backups. But if you find yourself in need of data recovery, I wouldn't mess around with it trying to do it yourself. You might make something unrecoverable through a failed attempt of trying to save money and doing it yourself. However, you can always give it a shot or reach out to them with whatever you've got. Even if you've got a hard drive or a flash drive or something sitting around, you don't get to dictate your price. You don't get to say, well, this is what I have and this is what I'm willing to pay for the recovery. It doesn't work that way. You don't walk into Best Buy and say, I need a 55-inch TV and I'm only going to give you $150 for it. Buy. But I will tell you that if you price around, they are absolutely incomparable in price. So And I encourage you to verify that for yourself. But no, if you think you're going to dictate your price, that's not a professional company that would do that. You might be able to do that with some hobbyist working out of their garage, but professional companies just simply don't. They don't play that game. At least not in computer repair and data recovery. It doesn't work that way. And in any event, I only mention that because I had a couple of inquiries where people were somehow under the impression they could name their price. But I will say that data recovery is extraordinarily time consuming and requires very, very expensive proprietary equipment that requires very specialty training on how to use it. We're talking equipment, a single data recovery station can run over $100,000, not uncommonly up to $250,000, depending on the level of equipment and what it's doing. And so if you have multiple recovery stations, you can see you can quickly get into the millions of dollars for this specialty equipment, plus all of the training that you have to pay for to understand how to use it all. And so with $300 data recovery, they make that investment into the education and the specialty tools. And then it's sort of financed through the customers, each customer paying for a fraction of that along with some labor, which is how we define a business and how a business works. It doesn't make sense for a home user, even if they could, to buy this equipment to try and save the money, to spend $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 on the equipment and another $5,000 to $7,000 on the training, and then still not have the experience to try and save $300 from $300 data recovery and have it done quickly by somebody who's got experience. Well, $300 data recovery, they've been around since 2007. They've recovered over 27,000 hard drives, and they are the highest rated data recovery company on Yelp on the planet Earth. So, you know, it's one thing if it's cheap and the service is iffy. It's another thing if it's expensive and the service is good, but now it's both inexpensive and great service. And again, don't take my word for it. Do your own research. And time is of the essence when it comes to data recovery. So if you ever need something recovered, sitting on it is only going to make the odds less in your favor of a successful recovery. It's very important you get to it as quickly as possible for the greatest odds of success. All right, so let me go ahead and move this off the counter here and the bench. I should call this the bench. This thing got heavy. Just set it over here with the rest of the computers. And when that cable comes in, I'll finish that up. And I guess we don't need the Lazy Susan today, so we'll move that as well temporarily right over here. Okay. My thanks over to the folks at Minisforum for sending us this unit in exchange for the review. I'm pretty excited about this one. First of all, when it arrived, it's much heavier than I think any other mini PC I've ever been sent. So if we're going by weight equaling quality, well, this is definitely a value per pound compared to other models. But what does it really mean? The specifications on this say it's an AMD Ryzen 7 7735H5 using AMD Radeon graphics. Now, they do sell this as a bare bones unit, so you can populate the RAM, storage, and operating system yourself. And they have adapters for China, Hong Kong, Australia, UK, Japan, US, and Europe. Configuration that this came with is two 16 gig modules for a total of 32 gigs of RAM and 5 12 gig of storage. They do show options of one 8 gig stick, two 8 gig sticks, one 16 gig stick, two 16 gig sticks, or two 32 gig sticks. As for storage, as I mentioned, you can get no storage and do it yourself. 128, 256, 512, 1 terabyte, and 2 terabyte are all options for the storage from the factory. And I've been very impressed with past reviews of Minisforum PCs, and I'm very much looking forward, as I do, to every Minisforum PC, because I know what's going to be in the box is good. It's sort of like when you go to the grocery store and you get Pepperidge Farm branded cookies or crackers. They're a little bit more money than the generic crackers, but they're delicious. Everything Pepperidge Farm makes, I think, is outstanding. So I don't think Minisforum really matches that in the sense of cost. I think they're very, very price competitive, considering that they do offer support. A lot of the companies that are selling mini PCs out of China, they sell you the unit and you just never hear from them again. It's a one and done transaction and you're on your own. We've certainly had some mixed experiences with brands like Chewy and BMax, and we've never had a mixed experience with Minisforum or B-Link or Ace Magic. Those have all been solid brands for us as far as support after the sale. Now, they're all, regardless of who makes the mini PC, if they work, they're all great according to their specifications, right? They all perform within reason. The problem is, what happens when you need support? And if you don't need support, well, then it's an irrelevant point. But if you do, and you don't get it, you're probably going to be an upset consumer. And when you're going to drop $1,000 on a mini PC, that's more important than ever that you have support for it. So let's take a look over at the Amazon. Should I go to Amazon or should I go? Let's go to the Minisforum page to see how Minisforum themselves describe this. So I'm going to bring up my window capture. Here we go. So this is the Neptune series, and they have 3 different models, the HX77G, HX99G, and the HX80G. And you'll see here, as a bare bones system with the US adapter, it sells for, where's the price? $639. $639. $799 is the normal price. They've got them on sale right now. What do you get for $639? Well, if you're going to add your own RAM, storage, and operating system, you'll notice there's tabs here. The 99G, the 77G, specification, and facts. This is where people get thrown sometimes. It's defaulting here on the 99G, but we have the HX77G, so we're going to click that tab, and this will tell us all about it. It's based on the AMD Radeon RX 660 or 6600M mobile graphics chip. It supports dual 4K and 8K displays. It's got their specialty heat dissipation. So it's got a PCIe Gen 4 512 gig NVMe. Of course, it's Gen 4 slot, so that means if you were to put your own NVMe drive in there, you could go with those faster Gen 4 drives. Supports DDR5. That's always a positive thing. It's the latest in RAM. Still a lot of machines, probably the majority of machines being sold today are still DDR4. DDR5 is the latest. It's the faster version, and it's a bit more expensive. Get what you pay for. They're talking about a carbon fiber composite material that the case is made from. The processor is an 8-core, 16-thread CPU that goes from 3.3 turbos up to 4.9 gigahertz. And scroll down here, and they've got some samples of performance tests and the discrete graphics, not onboard graphics. This is a mobile graphics chip, the likes of which you would find in a gaming laptop. So RDNA 2 graphics, and again, it's going to outperform what you're accustomed to seeing with integrated graphics, but it's not as powerful as its desktop equivalent. So you're sitting somewhere in the middle there. You can support 4 4K CPU video outputs at the same time. 2 HDMI ports at 4K at 60 hertz, and 2 DisplayPort outputs at 4K at 60 hertz, for a total of 4 4K outputs at 60 hertz refresh rate on the screen. The carbon fiber armors is a case that gives it durability and lightens it. Well, this feels pretty heavy, so I'm surprised to say it's light. They have their own specialty cooling system, as Minisforum is really known for using liquid metal for both the CPU and the GPU on this model, and a dual fan inside for heat dissipation, and it can run at low noise even under a full load. It's got 7 copper heat pipes. It's upgrade friendly, meaning you can upgrade the M.2, you can upgrade the RAM, and it's really easy, they say, to get into, although I've We're going to experience it here together for the first time. Here's all of our ports on the front. Can I make that any bigger? Because I can't read that. We have the power button, a USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type-C, a microphone jack, and a headphone jack, a USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type-A. Around back, we've got a 2.5 gig Ethernet connection. We've got another USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-A port, two more 3.2 Gen 1 Type-A ports. We've got two USB 4 ports. These will support the DisplayPort output to the second, well, to your third and fourth monitors, if you will. And then two HDMI outputs. These can all four be used at the same time. And then we've got our DIN pin power supply. It's definitely a unique power supply. I wouldn't worry too much about labeling the power brick because that's such a unique adapter. You likely won't have another one like it. I always appreciate that. And as we scroll down, there's our size and dimensions. Everything that comes in the box is pictured here. And they're showing us the port differences between the HX77G and the HX80G and why different models are offered for different preferences for the user. Okay, so with that being said, I will mention that Amazon does have this model on sale. You'll see there's a $200 coupon right here that you can get this model with 32 gigs of RAM and a 1 terabyte solid state drive for $799. So $800 complete. That's a really good deal. That's a really good deal. Okay, so let me go back over to camera one. As soon as I find camera one. There it is. And say hello to everybody joining us in the chat room. I sort of jumped ahead here today. There's our friend Peter Laycock joining us all the way from Scotland. And Paul O'Brien joining us from Ireland. Let me scroll all the way to the top. We've got about 253 people in the chat room. Welcome, everybody. Rock says welcome from Detroit Rock City. Right on, my hometown. John Williams says hello. Shamim Keshviras says hello from Sweden. Mortant joins us, as does Rob Warren and Douglas Burchell. Chris Johnson says hello. Mark Baggett says hello. Alan Lindos says hello. Garfield Rupe. Peter Laycock renews his support, now a member for 16 months. He says, good evening, Carrie and Marlena and everyone in the chat. All the best from Bonnie, Scotland. The temperature in Edinburgh, Scotland is 51 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 10 degrees Celsius, and it is raining. You want to trade, Buster? I'm going to go live in Scotland for a little while. It's hot here, and it's going to get hot this weekend. I am hopeful. You know, the days are getting shorter out here. We're getting dark. Instead of waiting till 8 or 8:30 for dusk, it's getting dusk around 7. So the days are shorter, but the days are still over 110 sometimes. We're already in the middle of September. We're still getting August weather. So I think once we get past this weekend, which again, it's going to be a hot weekend, think about 110. I think then it starts to cool off. Let me rephrase. I hope it starts to cool off and only starts trending downward until about April. So here's hoping. 3D Everything contributes $20 in Super Chat. He says, Carrie, you have my support. Well, that's all I ever wanted. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I don't mean that sarcastically. Your support means a lot to me. There's a lot of haters on the internet, a lot of lonely, sad people on the internet. And I'm trying to figure out what to do with these live interactions. Sometimes we're getting folks that, well, we've seen some blue moderators being abusive, which when I sit down and start looking into it, I'm going to start removing some blue moderators because of their behavior. That's not to say that they can't earn it back, but my tolerance for some of this behavior, you know, we're supposed to be, and I want you to remember, we're supposed to be a community of kindness. And if you're not being kind, you certainly don't deserve to be blue. So if you are somebody who I've entrusted to blue mod status, before you type anything to anyone in the chat, ask yourself, am I being kind? Because that's what I'm going to do when I go through these and I start weeding out people. It causes harm for the whole community when you do that. So I don't want to remove any blue people, but I don't know what choice I'm going to have if the behavior continues. So that is your shot across the bow. The vast majority of folks that are blue, there's no problem with. There's a couple of bad apples, or I should say some apples that need a little more scrutiny on my behalf, because I don't want to set monsters out on the on the community, not with intention. And there's just no excuse for not being kind. I don't care if you're having a bad day or you had too much to drink. If that's the case, those are not valid excuses, and that's not responsible use of the blue status. So please don't even go there. Don't use those excuses. You're best off, not saying anything at all than saying something unkind to somebody else. Okay, it's very important to me. I've dealt with bullying my whole life, and I have no tolerance for it. So this is being scrutinized, and it will be scrutinized for the rest of this month as I try and figure out how I want to deal with it. There's a large part of me that says I only want people that are supporters, paid supporters, to be able to interact with me. And I realize that there's a lot of collateral damage of people who are interacting just fine who will be punished for that. But if that's what I have to do in order to maintain some semblance of respect among the community, I have to do what I have to do. So it's up to you whether or not I do that. Oh, I got this new thing. I didn't turn it on. This came to me from Lithuania, and it's a sound VU meter. And I just have it set on a random color mode right now. I guess I could turn the brightness up on that a little bit. But it has different modes. Like I can turn this like this. And then as I talk, you can see that the bars go up and down as I talk. I can raise that sensitivity up a little bit more. And it's got a bunch of different modes. Check 1, 2, check 1, 2. Testing 1, 2, test 1, 2. Check 1, 2, 3, check 1, 2. Hello, check. Testing 1, 2. Check 1, 2, 3. Check 1, 2, 3. Testing. Hello, 1, 2. Check 1, 1, 2. Yeah, I just thought this was a kind of a cool trinket, and it was made available. What it's designed for, this up here is so you could put a record album up there and have it be an audio spectrum analyzer for your music. And it comes from, I think it's Lithuania. They're $200, really good deal. Company called Petru, Petru. And yeah, I think it's a really good solid value for what you're getting. I'm trying to figure out where my other screen was. Check 1. This way. Test 1, 2. Check. I could play with this all day. I think it's totally cool. So I'm going to just leave it on a random color pattern that's not sound sensitive, so as to not be too distracting. Turn that sensitivity for the microphone all the way down since it's not reacting to sound. But it's a neat new toy. I think it looks better there than the internet box. I try and move some things around and keep it fresh. Somewhat fresh from time to time. That was on back order for a long time. There's a YouTube creator called TechMoan. I think it was TechMoan that reviewed this. And as a result of their review, they got massively back ordered. It's a steal for $200. So hello to everybody else. I'm sorry I didn't say hello to everybody, but welcome all my regulars. And of course, just off the cuff here, hello to Rick Lakes and Douglas Burchell, Thomas Backenstow, and Barry Klein. Does it use an internal mic? Barry Klein wants to know. Yes, it has a microphone on the side. and it's powered via a USB Type-C cable. They recommend not plugging it into a PC because it draws a lot of power if you've got the brightness turned all the way up and it's really dancing around. It might restart itself because it's drawing too much. So they recommend using a wall charger. But I have the brightness turned about midway. And I don't know if I can get you guys a link for this. Let's just take a quick look. I wasn't planning on actually talking about this. Quite frankly, I forgot about it. petrodesign.com. And I'm going to show you their website, and then we're going to get on with today's review. But the website is right here at petrodesign.com. You see it's $199. You'll see people put their albums on, put your album or your tablet up there. It's really for audio files. I just thought it'd be kind of cool to have. And I want to say that was Techmoan who did that. Let me just verify that real quick. Let me go back to camera 1 for a moment here. See if I can find it. And the shipping is free worldwide. Guy makes them by hand, so that there could be a back order. It's worth the wait, because he takes great pride in what he's doing for consistency and quality, and I'm very impressed. Go to the Techmoan page. I think it's on Techmoan. This is somebody that I follow, and you might want to follow him too if you're into audio at all, and audio gadgets. And I think in here somewhere, had to be over a month ago when I first saw it. Oh, Oystein, it looks like has already found it for me. Let's take a look here. Go back over to camera 1 for a second. Switch over to my... Okay, go over to here. Yeah, this is the original video. So this was 2 months ago, and I ordered it pretty much the day I saw this video. But he goes through all the details. If you want to learn more about it, check out Techmoan's page. Clearly, he's more popular than me with 1.3 million subscribers. So if you haven't heard of him, apparently a lot of other people like him. And is a great, thorough review of this. Okay, so back over to camera 1. And thank you, Oystein, for providing that link for me. I appreciate that. Link is in the chat room. Luke Greenia says a big thank you to Minisforum and Be Quiet. They've been very generous and supportive to the channel. We, the community, thank them immensely. I'll tell you what, the folks over at Be Quiet, I requested a 360 millimeter RGB cooler to go into the case they sent, and I requested a new circuit board for the front RGB because the front RGB is not working. Well, the folks at Be Quiet not only sent me the 360 millimeter, not degree, 360 millimeter all-in-one cooler, they also sent a whole nother Shadow Base 800GX case. Now look, the folks at Be Quiet, they don't shy away from things being big and solid. So it's a mixed blessing. Something like the Be Quiet Shadow Base 800DX. It's so big and heavy, just empty. it's going to cost me likely around $200 to ship that. If it's fully built as a computer, likely around $200 to ship that across the country to the East Coast where most people are ordering machines. And so for that reason, for the most part, I don't ship the Be Quiet cases, at least not their, what do they call? Well, this one's a shadow base, but they had the pure base. They are heavy and they're sound dampened. They have sound insulating material in them. So for the build that we were doing in it and the Shadow Base 800, I've postponed completing that build because I wanted to get that front circuit board. I wanted to take advantage of that large case by putting in a large all-in-one cooler. And I want to use a Be Quiet power supply, which Be Quiet has sent me everything but the power supply. And we'll be revisiting that build to use all of these Be Quiet parts. And it's not that I won't send it and, you know, mail it out. It's just cost prohibitive to have to spend $200 on shipping on what is, you know, likely $1,000 or $1,200, $1,300 computer. And that big side glass panel is a big, heavy piece of glass. I mean, if you've ever taken one of the tempered glass shelving units out of your refrigerator for any reason, you know how heavy those are? That's effectively what it's got on its side. So it is solidly built, well constructed, and a great value for the money. But take advantage of free shipping from ordering from the big retailers like Newegg, B&H Photo, Amazon, because the shipping on these cases would be, you know, because of size and weight, cost prohibitive. But we've got that to look forward to coming up. Hey, camera girl, would you mind grabbing the close-up camera and we'll do the unboxing close-up? Ray Burke says, thanks to Carrie, David, and Gary for their help with my wife's computer with her games. I don't remember whatever that email or conversation was, but I'm glad we were able to help. Thank you to Paul O'Brien for the $10 Amazon gift card sent prior to the show. And just checking email here. Thomas Tidwell sent $10 via PayPal. Thank you to Thomas. Oh, did I put the I put the computer right down onto the cables for the wireless, or not the wireless, obviously, but for the close-up camera, which has a HDMI cable on it. You need some help? Okay. Yeah, got a little tangle. Well, we haven't used it. We haven't used it in a few days, so things got set over there, and I just literally put the computer right on top of it while we were live here.
Yeah,
I didn't even think about it. I wasn't thinking. All right, you're all fired up over there? Okay, so I'm going to turn on close-up camera. Come on over. All right, there she is. Here's the box. And this is our very first unboxing. We are live, unscripted, and unrehearsed. Okay, so we're going to get exactly what was sent to us. And as we open it, this is what you should expect. If you order one, you should see this warning about removing the CPU cooler. Because of the use of liquid metal, you likely will not seat it properly. So leave it alone. Warranty service is not provided for damage caused by improper disassembly. That's true for all manufacturers. This is nothing unique to Minisforum. You get a small owner's manual here, which I'm going to guess is going to be in every language they support, with basic information, nothing too detailed. And then, of course, we've got the PC in here, so let's take this out. Wow, that is
big.
Yeah, holy cow. So to give you some idea of how big this, oh, there's little rubber feet down here. So I guess you could lay it like that if you wanted to. And it keeps it a little off.
That sounds heavy.
Funk. Just to give you some idea, like this is my phone. Maybe a black item isn't the best thing to show it. This is my little Gatorade. Yeah, it's pretty large. I mean, not as big as the Thermaltake Tower 100 we just took down. by any stretch of the imagination. Now, further into the box, we've got another box in the box, or actually it's just a little cover. And underneath that, we have, oh, look at this. We have this stand. So you see these screws right here. There's 3 screws right here, 2 screws here. It looks like we could set this up to be mounted against something, or check this out. Oh, maybe these two go together, actually. This is different. Can't say I'm familiar with this. This is like metal.
Ooh,
We got
fancy.
a peel. Oh, it's all rubbery on that side. Carbon fiber design on that side.
Oh,
And then it looks like in here, we've got the screws. And that guess that goes right in there. So if this was to secure onto here like that, and then this would go on here like this, and then you could set it like it's meant to sit like that. But we want to open this up and take a look at its guts before we go. That's a very unique kickstand. I like it. And these screws are for securing that kickstand, which is optional. You do not have to use it, but that's what these 2 screws and these 3 screws are for. So obviously it's not going anywhere once you screw that down. In the box, we've got our US power cable, standard PC power cable, which I appreciate. And that's going to plug into the power adapter, which is a pretty sizable power adapter.
Yeah.
And it does have that 4-pinned in barrel style connector, which is ideal because these aren't too common, so you're less likely to plug the wrong plug into it. On the back are voltages and wattages, polarity. All of that is detailed here. And I'll set that down. And then finally, they give us one standard HDMI cable. Looks like it's about 5 or 6 feet in length. Probably like a 3-meter HDMI. And that's what you get for your money. Now, the way this is shipped, we don't have to open it up to do anything. It's already got the RAM, solid state drive, and operating system installed. But if we want to take a look and see how it's put together, this is probably an ideal time to do that. I've not done any research on this at all. Sometimes before I'll broadcast, if there's another YouTube content creator that's done a review, I might skim through it. I don't like to get any preconceived ideas or unintentionally repeat back what somebody else has said. So it's best if I just come at it with a completely clean slate. It also means I'm a little less efficient at opening it up. And just looking at it, I don't see any obvious places where there are screws to remove. Sometimes, Minisforum, they like to hide the screws behind rubber feet, but they would normally be on the corners. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at this instruction manual here and see if it mentions anything about opening it, because they do mention on the website that it's very easy to work on. So I would assume they've got some detailed instruction on how it opens, because it is not immediately obvious to me, and that's a good thing. Uncover the bottom silicone pad. The screws are underneath the rubber pads again. So essentially, we have to take these pads off, which, see how the sticky stuff is staying stuck to the computer instead of to the foot? we've got a screw there, screw there, screw there, screw there. Then this piece comes out, and then there's a shield, a metal shielding. That metal shielding comes out, and then you have access to everything on top. So I don't really think I want to open this right now, given that I don't want to have to remove the silicon pads. They don't give you any extras. The good news is you only have to lift up the corners and take the screws out from each side. 4 screws. This whole piece will lift off. And what I want to do first is fire it up. Let's start getting, let's get it updated. Let's see what version of Windows we've got, whether or not we have to bypass NRO to set it up or not. And then just kind of take an overview of it. And depending on how we're doing on time, then maybe I'll open it up. But I'm hesitant just because I know these rubber feet aren't going to stick as well. So, and there's nothing I need in there. So first of all, I'll plug in the power adapter. Now, this computer is designed to be placed upright or lay flat. I think since we're going to power it on, I'm going to oh, this is interesting. There are 4 screws back here that secure this piece. But when we do that, secure this, it's going to make it really hard to tighten those screws. So you got to put this piece on first. This is bag 1 and bag 2. Bag 2 has 4 screws, so that's got to be for this part. And bag 1 has 5 screws. That's 3 and 2. These 3 here, these 3, and these 2. So we don't even have to look at the documentation to know which screws are intended for which area. You'll see these holes are beveled so that the screws will sink down and be flush. So these are what those screws look like. They've got a little blue Loctite on them. And it looks like adding this won't hinder our ability to take it apart. But if it does, it's easy enough to remove. Feels wrong. It's solid, I'll tell you that. Times like this, I really want my electric driver because these screws are about twice as long as I think they need to be, especially that they're sinking in there. Yeah, well, that is over-engineered. For some reason, this one's just having trouble. Adjusting my clutch, I had to tighten it up a little bit. There we go. And then we'll take these screws out of this bag. Now, for some reason, this bag is a Ziploc and this bag is not a Ziploc. This is a one-time use tear it open bag. Not sure why they would do one way and one another, but just a nerd like me would notice little things like that anyway. I'm sure most people probably wouldn't even notice. But in this piece here, this will go on. So my electric driver's tip is too wide. So these have a narrower head on them. Phillips #1 or a GIS driver would be ideal for this. And again, this probably only in reality needs 2 screws. The fact that they're giving us 4 is really overkill. And the fact that that's metal This thing is solidly built. Thankfully, these screws are much shallower, so not much benefit to using the electric driver. Those are very shallow, so easy enough to get into. Okay, so now when we set it up, it looks like this. And let me step around and we'll start plugging in some stuff. Now, I'm not going to plug in the internet in this because it's our first time boot up and I don't want to create an online account. Might have to have Camera Girl load her BattleNet and Steam on here. See how it does for gaming. All right, so giving it power, we've given it Ethernet. I need a keyboard and a mouse. Oh, not Ethernet, this is HDMI. And I just need a keyboard and a mouse and we can fire this bad boy up. Now, once we go through the initial Windows 11 setup routine, then I'll plug in the network. And we'll hit Windows updates. Should already have our drivers and everything put in. What is this caught up on? Ah, okay, thank you. That's good. All right, so hit the power button. See the blue light comes on. And we're going to go over to HDMI input. You're clear. You can go ahead and shut that off.
Okay.
Thank you, Camera Girl. There's our very first boot from out of the box. They say the power brick for this is huge. It's pretty standard size for like Intel Nooks. Intel uses pretty big power bricks. Or Big Zeddy's never seen USB video out. It's USB Type-C may support video out. Not all USB Type-C does. But that's been around for a few years now. And we have certainly shown it here on this channel as early as 2 years ago, I want to say. All right, here we are with our boot up screen. I'm going to go full screen over here so I can see it the way you guys at home see it. Okay, English US, yes. States, yes. US keyboard. Secondary language on the keyboard, no. Skip that. I'm going to click I don't have internet. Thank goodness I don't have to run bypass NRO. That the folks at Minisforum have set this up very conveniently for the end user. And I'll accept the license agreement. And for the user, I'll put the name user. And I'll leave the password blank so it just boots to the desktop. I'm going to turn off everything but location settings. Then our date and time will always be kept up to the date, up to the second. And if I ever want to know where something is near me, I can't do that without location settings or providing more information as to where I am. But by using location settings, it can auto-determine where I am, roughly based on my IP address. Now, Nick Poverman mentions his portable monitor accepts USB-C video. All portable monitors should. Most portable monitors can run off one USB-C cable that will provide both power and video, so you can, hence it's a portable monitor. You can take the monitor with you. Don't necessarily need an HDMI cable. You don't necessarily need a separate power adapter. You just need a USB-C cable and a computer that supports video out through the USB-C and also has power, so it can do both the video data and the video power to the portable monitor. It's very convenient if you're looking to travel and trying to keep your cabling light. Rob Warren says, I have an Asus Maximus BioGene with Intel 4600K. Oh my gosh, that's got to be 9 years old. It has a liquid cooler on it. Can I swap it out for an air cooler? Yes, you can. You just got to make sure the cooler you choose is going to be adequate enough to keep that chip cool while at the same time still be able to close the lid on your case. But I wouldn't put any money in a 4600 that's not Windows 11 compatible, and it never will be. At most, that has 2 years left in it. When Windows 10 expires, unless you're going to move over to Linux or some other operating system, the 4600 is well considered obsolete. Well, in 2 years, it'll be absolutely obsolete. But for most people, given that we're on the 13th gen and you have a 4th gen and a new gen comes out every year roughly, you're looking at a very, very old computer that has lived a full life, and extending it any further is all well and good as long as you're not really putting any money into it, because any money you put into that won't make it worth any more. If it's worth $10 today, putting an $80 cooler on it won't make it worth $90. It's still a $10 computer. I'm exaggerating here. It's worth more than $10, but I don't think you could get $100 out of it. Okay, now that we're up to the Windows desktop, I'm going to go ahead and plug the Ethernet cable into it, and then we'll see what we're doing on Windows updates here. Hopefully that little globe down in the bottom right corner will turn into a little computer screen once it gets assigned an IP address from my router. We'll take a quick look in the device manager. I just want to make sure that everything's loaded properly, that we don't have any unrecognized devices. Ah, there it goes. Just got the little monitor down there, so we're connected. We don't see any problems here. All the drivers are loaded. We can verify what version of Windows we have by right-clicking on the Start menu and going to System here. And this will tell us how much RAM we've got, 32 gigs. Which processor we've got. We're running Windows 11 Pro. We are version 22H2. Everything looks good. I really appreciate when systems from manufacturers are set up properly. We're going to go to Settings, and we're going to go to Windows Update. The very first thing you should do on any new computer you acquire is hit that Windows Updates page, because you're going to be missing a ton of updates. Microsoft comes out with updates the second Tuesday of every month. And it was just that this past Tuesday. So even if this was fully updated when they sent it to me, it'll still be missing updates by the time I received it in the mail. These updates are important. They're to keep us secure, make sure that we have the best performance and the best reliability. They are, in my opinion, not optional and are actually critical. To evaluate a computer without doing the updates first is an invalid evaluation. Any reviewer who does that, I would consider their reviews worthless, because the updates can make a big difference in the reliability, performance, and security of the machine, not just in a positive way, sometimes in a negative way. And it can deeply, deeply affect the outcome of a review. So if you're seeing a review from 6 months ago, know that if they were to review that product 6 months later with all the updates, driver updates, Windows updates that have come out, maybe even BIOS updates, the review could be drastically different. It could swing from being recommended to no longer recommended. Or it may be no major difference one way or the other, or the complete other way around, from not recommended to recommended, right? If something was bleeding edge technology, a lot of times that stuff goes out the gate. It's a little wobbly. And then through refining it over time, it gets better and better and better. So that's why I say when somebody just reviews a product out of the box, I don't consider that a professional review. It's entertainment, I suppose, but the usefulness of the factual results of the data is flawed and therefore can't be trusted. Now, that's just my rule. You can have your own rules, obviously. Rob Warren said, I'm possibly looking at updating to a newer motherboard with an LGA 1700 chipset and a 12th or 13th CPU. It's in a Corsair ATX case. Any suggestions for upgrades? I like the 13500 and whatever motherboard you want to choose. But I think the 13500 using the stock CPU is a great value to be had right now in September of 2023. And you can pair that with any board you decide, but you don't have to buy a cooler for it. You could probably still use the same power supply you've got. You can buy systems that use DDR4, motherboards that use DDR4. I wouldn't. I'd make sure and get a board that has DDR5. Sometimes people, they want to save money, so they end up cutting off their performance, which kind of negates the whole point of the upgrade. It's better to sacrifice, suffer a little bit, to pay a little bit more now, so you have a machine. If you're somebody that's going to keep a machine 10 years, don't go cheap when you buy it new. You're going to spend more in the long run anyway if you do it that way. So best to get exactly what you need adequately for today, even if it means you're going to have to tighten your belt a little bit. I do it all the time. I'll make sacrifices in order to get something that's a couple steps better than the basic. And then I have a computer that I don't need to touch or worry about for, minimum of 8 years, and usually goes beyond that. But if you go cheap on it, you're likely going to have more problems, and you're going to be spending more money that much sooner to keep upgrading it. So just my opinion there. But I've got plenty of builds featuring the 13500, and there's a reason for that. It's because I think it's the good value proposition out there right now. At the end of the day, all these CPUs exist to meet different budgets and requirements of the end user. And since I don't know you, I don't know your budget or requirements, and it would take a 90-minute conversation to establish it, it's really up to you to do your research. And live with your consequences, live with the decisions you make. Avery Radstor, contributes $4 in Super Chat. Thank you, Avery, for supporting the channel. Rob Warren says, use the 8 terabyte SSD and see if the PC is compatible. I can guarantee it is. There's not going to be any limitation. I don't think we've ever run into any modern mini PC that would not see the 8 terabyte drive unless we were plugging into a SATA M.2 port, in which case it won't see any NVMe drive. I have no doubt this will see 4 and 8 terabyte drives with no problem whatsoever. And we can upgrade this DDR5 easily to 64 gigs. There's 2 slots. We could get 2 32 gig modules and bump this bad boy to 64. Andy says, I have too many computers. I know, I'm sick. I need help. All right, so while this is updating, I can go ahead and put camera 1 back in the corner here. Let's see, where's camera 1? Here we go. Drag myself right up about there, and we'll keep an eye on things. Spikeman said he guesses he would go with an i7 as he's got a few games that requirements recommend. Well, there's required and recommended, right? So recommended is like for the best possible performance. Required is you at least need this as a minimum. So I wouldn't say you had to get the recommended. You have to get the minimum requirements, but beyond that, it's up to you. What type of USB-C can do video out? It is going to be a Type C USB-C that specifically says it does video out. It'll be in the specifications. If we look at the documentation, for example, that comes with the Minisforum, it probably states in here, which USB-Cs do and don't support, because I think the one up front here, the USB-C up front, is not going to support video output. That's going to be data only. And this actually says it's a USB 4 port. So these USB Type Cs in the back are not USB 3s, they're USB 4s. Interesting. It says this interface supports the USB 4 transmission protocol. The maximum data transmission rate is 20 gigabits per second. It also supports alternate DisplayPort audio and video output. So it's going to say right in the documentation with your system, whether it's a laptop or a motherboard, you just have to read the specifications of the included USB ports. If you want to add a USB port, companies like Silverstone, sell add-in cards. You can plug into a regular tower computer if you've got the slots for it. And they sell a variety of them containing Type A, Type C, as well as USB 3, 3.1, 3.2, Gen 2, as well as USB 4, which is the latest and greatest. Don't confuse USB space 4 with USB 4 all as one word. USB 4 all as one word is real USB 4. USB with a space and then the number 4 is some marketing gimmick that's not a thing. It doesn't actually exist. So don't be fooled. You want to see USB 4, USB number 4, all jammed together as one word to know that you've got real USB 4. Now, it's my understanding all USB 4 supports DisplayPort out, but I could be mistaken on that. It's still a new standard. But again, the manufacturer of your equipment will specify this in their documentation. It's not a secret. So if you're curious about that and you don't know where your documentation is, just go to the manufacturer's website of the motherboard, or if it's a system integrated, system integrator like HP or Dell, go to their website for support and pull up the PDF file and look at the specifications, and it'll give you all of that information. David Moore has renewed his membership, now a member for 13 months. Thank you, David. David Dix at Rock City PC says, typically you will see a letter D next to a Type-C port that signifies it supports display out. Yeah, it's a little D and P actually. It's DisplayPort's logo, and you can Google it to see what it looks like. And yes, sometimes on the back of the computers, they will have that. The back of this computer doesn't have any writing at all. It's just a pattern design. So it's really about reading your documentation if you care about such details. There's no way to just, like on this one, I couldn't look at it and tell you by looking at it. There'd be no other way to know other than trying it and seeing if it works, or reading the documentation, at least with regards to the specifications of the USB ports. If it doesn't mention it, then it doesn't support it. Oh, I'm stepping out on my trash bag here. Move this stuff out. Oh, that's what I was stepping on. So while we are downloading these updates, I guess I can make a couple little changes here that I like to make. One is I don't want the computer to go to sleep on us while we're working on it. So I'm going to go over to the search bar here and type in power, choose a power plan, change plan settings. Oh, we're set to never. Perfect. I'm good with that. I also like to turn off notifications. So I'll just go down here to the notification bar. Click on the icon here. Oh, sorry, not that one. Notification settings, turn off notifications. The other thing I like to do is get rid of this little cartoony thing down here in the search. So just type in search permission. I don't even have to finish typing it. It comes up right there. Scroll all the way down and it says more settings, show search highlights. Turn that to off and you'll see that little cartoony thing goes away. It'll stay gone until perhaps a big update like 23H2 comes out. We'll see. But that's about the only way that would come back on. And while we're waiting here, if anybody's got any technical problems you're dealing with at home with your computer, or you're helping somebody out and you're stuck on an issue, this is the place to ask. Sometimes I ask people if they have any questions, and apparently people have become literal like computers and have stopped becoming human. There's like this weird disease going around. I think it's a disease that you now have to be literal. So when I ask you if you have any questions, I'm not asking about your hypothetics. That's just a waste of time. I'm asking if you're struggling with an issue you're trying to resolve, can we help you resolve it? Because we have a very intelligent community here. So not only myself, but members of our community are more than happy to provide you with our best guess to solve your problem. Hopefully, we have a community that is having no computer problems. Andy Kane says, when will 23H2 be released? Microsoft will not commit to a date. Basically, it will be released when it's ready. So it could be as early as later this month, sometime in October, it as late as in November. So Microsoft doesn't want to say we're coming out with this update on this day, and then whether it's ready or not, be forced to release it, and then have everybody all pissed off and all this negative press because of some issue that wasn't resolved because they put a deadline before they finish the product. So Microsoft has a policy now that if that product has to be postponed to next year to be stable, it will not be released until it's stable. And they will not commit to a date until it is stable. Once it's stable, then they'll tell you it'll be out next week. You know what I mean? Like it'll be relatively soon. They won't hold on to it. So Microsoft will not commit to a date ever again because of the past consequences of doing so have caused a shift in priority between getting something out and getting something right. So it's a good thing. But ideally, it should be out, I would guess, around this time next month, but I don't really know. It's just a guess. There will not be any more updates like that for Windows 10. You'll just continue to go to Windows Update and get your regular monthly updates. There'll be no more big service packs like 23H2. It's my understanding that 22H2 is the last big service pack for Windows 10, and everything else will be normal Windows updates. And that means as we get towards the end of life for Windows 10, if you do a fresh, clean install of Windows 10 with 22H2, you're going to have a lot of updates to do, let's say a year and a half from now. It's very discouraging. It's going to take a while, and Microsoft marketing wants that to be discouraging, and they want it to take a while because they want to give you a reason to go to Windows 11. There's some rumor that Windows 12 is in the works. If that rumor is true, then that would likely be released in October of 2024. So a lot of people running Windows 10 could hop right over, in theory, hop over Windows 11 and go right to Windows 12. A lot of people skipped over Windows Millennium and went from 98 to XP. A lot of people skipped over Vista and went from XP to Windows 7. A lot of people skipped over Windows 8 and went from 7 to Windows 10. And I think a lot of people will skip over 11 and go from Windows 10 to 12 if history is to repeat itself. These are just rumors, but I see no benefit to upgrading to Windows 11 if you've got Windows 10 now. It doesn't really do anything for you. Now, Windows 11 doesn't do anything for you, essentially, that Windows 10 doesn't already do. It's very little reason to upgrade to it, in my opinion. However, when Windows 10 support ends in October of 2025, you definitely want to be running a supported operating system for security reasons. The internet's a very dangerous place. You see the news, big Las Vegas casinos, Caesars Palace, MGM resorts have been taken down. If they can take down these massively huge corporations that, well, let's face it, you don't mess with casinos. They're known to get revenge. What odds do you honestly think you stand against these hackers if they come after your system? And they're going to be using, the hackers are going to be using the latest and greatest technology. So if you're running an old obsolete computer and you don't care that your operating system is no longer being supported, hackers love you. You made their job so easy. But at the end of the day, it's your responsibility, and you'll be the only one who suffers. So again, choose accordingly. If you're going to take your computer off the internet, then feel free to run any operating system you want with or without support. But the internet is evolving rapidly. There's hundreds of millions of viruses, they're just bots. They'll never go away. They'll always be there. Sort of like you get a disease, the human body learns how to beat that disease, and then forever you have this disease in you, but it's just not active. It's kind of like that. And a lot of people just have a very weak grasp of PC security. I encourage you, they don't realize they have a weak grasp. They think they understand it, when in fact they have not a clue, because it hasn't happened to them yet. Scamming is getting worse. It's getting trickier. So the best thing you can do is make sure that you have the best defense possible. And of course, make wise decisions behind your keyboard. Even the safest car in the world won't guarantee your own safety from being hurt or killed, because you can't be bothered to learn how to drive safely. All right, so at the end of the day, that's on you. You've been warned. and choose your path and accept your consequences, good or bad. Now, as a computer technician working professionally, I cannot service computers that are not supported. If they have unsupported operating systems, it's a massive financial liability to my company. Think about it like say you go to the park to play baseball with your friends. And you show up, you play some ball, it's not a big deal, it's fun. But now think about you've signed up to a league and you've got to be at the park on a certain day at a certain time. If you don't show up and there's not enough players, your team forfeits. There's a lot of pressure now to be there. It's now becoming more of a job. You think of people like professionals that get paid to play baseball or any sport. There's a lot more to it than what you're seeing on the screen. So these people that shout at the screen and yell at the coach, they don't have 20% of the information that's what's actually happening during that game. They're not in the locker room. They're not hearing the discussions. They don't know the politics, the drama, and the strategies that are created by their defense and their offense coaches. So as a result of that, we have oversimplified, the viewers have oversimplified the game like they know all the answers to win the game because they play baseball with their friends on occasion. It's a very different thing when you're doing it professionally and you are held financially accountable. And whether it's sports or a computer technician, the advice I'm giving you is coming from a place of business, of professionalism. As a home user, you don't need to be professional, and I don't care. It's in your best interest, but you don't have to do things in your best interest if you don't want to. All right, let's take a look at what's going on in the chat room as we continue to wait for this update to install. Oystein said I had a problem with registering the Microsoft Office and Visio I bought from VIP CDK deals, but with help from their 24/7 online support, the problem was resolved. See, that's the important thing. Some people, they want to go through life without ever experiencing any surprises. Like, how can I avoid having an experience that's anything other than putting in a code and activating? There is a certain chaos to life. And no matter how many times you rehearse something or how many times, say, you buy from a specific company, there's still always the odds that you're going to get a bad product or something's going to go sideways for some reason, regardless of who the manufacturer is, regardless of your past experience. It is what it is. And so the important thing isn't whether or not that can happen. That can happen to anybody at any time from any company. The differentiator is, will the company have your back? Will they return your email? Will they answer your support request? Or do they just take your money, give you the product, and you never hear from them again? There's a ton of those companies that take your money, and then when you email them for questions or support, they don't respond to you. These are the companies that sell their products dirt cheap. Generally speaking, when you buy that cheapest price, where you're saving your money is you're throwing away your support. And if you're somebody who says, I don't need support, I fix my own stuff, well, good on you. But do understand, when you pay less, almost always you're getting less. Now, whether or not that's important to you may only be determined by you reacting. I choose to be proactive and not reactive. So by proactive, I put steps in place and arrange things in such a way that I am most likely to succeed. I make backups when I don't need to make backups. That's called being proactive, because you never know when you're going to need a backup until it's too late. I do things in order to avoid having problems, but I can't avoid having all problems, and life would be really boring, and I'm not sure I'd want to live it if it were possible to carve out a life without challenges, obstacles, and problems that need to be resolved. I pride myself on my ability to fix and resolve problems. I'm working on a very frustrating problem. A customer of mine said one of the machines I built for them started freezing up. And I went over there and took a look at the machine, and it looked like the Samsung NVMe driver was causing the freeze ups. So I removed it. And I also thought maybe just compatibility with the RAM or perhaps bad RAM modules. So I just simply swapped the RAM modules out and I reset the BIOS back to default settings. And I tried getting the machine to freeze. It wouldn't freeze for me. I assumed it was fixed. But the best and only worthwhile benchmark is the computer being used by the customer. There's no synthetic benchmark, in my opinion, that is a replacement or is as accurate or as thorough as the end user using the computer. The end user using the computer is the only benchmark that matters. That's called reality. Synthesis and simulation are numb and unrealistic. You can have a virtual meal. You want to eat a virtual steak, it has no flavor and it'll leave you hungry. It is no substitute for the real thing. Virtual is just a fancy word for pretend. And as an adult, I'm not real big on pretending anymore. Just grown past that stage. Unless I was an actor, then I could get paid to pretend. However, keep in mind that, well, virtual sounds like a pretty high-end techie word. It's just a fancy word for the word pretend. And nowhere does pretend equal reality. You can pretend how to land an aircraft, or you can actually land an aircraft. These are two very different experiences with very different consequences if it's not done correctly. And those consequences will affect your mindset when you're trying to perhaps practice landing a plane with an engine failure in a simulator versus the flight instructor turning the engine off and saying, now land us, as though we're going to simulate an emergency, find an open field that we can land in. And this all gets cleared with the FAA and such because it has to be. And this is a step that many pilots have to go through in order to achieve their pilot's licenses, to be able to land the craft not on a runway, but somewhere flat. In case of an emergency, how to find somewhere flat. Well, you can while you're still airborne. And while that might be ideal to start you off in a simulator to give you an idea, I promise you when you actually do it, it is nothing at all like the simulation, not even close. But people have their preferences, and some people prefer virtual reality to real reality. I don't. I think there'll be plenty of time for virtual reality when I'm dead. While I'm alive, I intend to live. That's my perspective and philosophy on that subject matter. Steve Chappelle says hello. Welcome in, Steve. Jim KJ3N says it's very boring in this house when it comes to tech support. Everything's working. It seems I'm too good for this place. Oh, maybe you're not pushing your hardware hard enough. Overclock it and overvolt it and see what happens. People that do that stuff are just asking for problems. Warpig wants to know, will a 2.4 gigahertz wireless network card work on a 5 gigahertz router? The 5 gigahertz router, what's the make and model of the router? In most cases, 5 gigahertz routers are also 2.4, and you can turn the 2.4 on or off, and you can turn the 5 on or off. By default, out of the box, it should be on. But you'd have to be specific with what router you have. Not all routers follow the same rules. So to just make that assumption, can a 5 gigahertz router support 2.4 is a flawed question, because you're assuming that all routers follow the same rules with regards to how their feature set and manufacturing processes and purposes for existence. So a router may be designed specifically for VoIP, or a router may be designed for VPN traffic. A router can be designed to do all different kinds of things. So to say, can this one question apply to all routers? Regardless of what that question is, it's generally no, it depends on the router. So in most cases, yes, but we can give you a more precise answer if we know specifically what router you're asking about. We have over 1,000 routers in the market that have come out since the late 90s. And to not know specifically which one you're referring to is going to lead basically to a worthless answer, because it's not a very detailed question. Like, is there any way I could stop the pain when I do this? Stop what pain when you do what? What are you talking about? So you can help us provide you with more useful answers by providing us with more detailed questions. I think that's one of the frustrations I have. People say, well, I'm not a tech. And well, I'm not saying you have to be a tech. I'd like you to put the description of the problem in your own words. Sometimes people ask, well, can I hook a 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi to a 5 gigahertz router? But they're not telling us why they want the answer to that question. So you need to step back again if you want more useful answers. Explain what it is you're trying to do. I have this XYZ wireless, and I have this XYZ brand router, and I'm trying to fill in the gap, right? Whatever it is. Can I do this? Instead, you've already answered all of that on your own. You haven't provided us with any of that information. And the answer we provide you may not actually give you the end result you think it's going to give you. That's why it helps if we understand what you're trying to accomplish. So we need to take a step backwards. And then we can provide you with information more specific to what it is you want to achieve with the hardware that you have, and if it's possible. He's got a Spectrum router. So Spectrum routers are going to be 2.4 and 5. And if it's a rental, then I would recommend that you call your cable company for support. The reason that, you pay this rental fee is so that when you have specific problems with the hardware you're renting, the support is built into that price. So you should just call your cable company up and ask them in this particular instance. Warpig said, my goal is to move from LAN cable to wireless NIC. And so what happened? What has led you to what problem have you run into that led you to this question? Where are you at right now? What part has you stuck? Shane Perkins said, I have purchased a Deco WE10800 and I keep getting drop connections from Wi-Fi devices within the same room, but I'm not experiencing this with my old R7000. You need to change the Wi-Fi channel that your network is on. So if you're on the 5 gigahertz channel, move to one end or the other of the channels. If you're on the 2.4 gigahertz, again, either choose the lowest channel or the highest channel or the channel in the middle on the 2.4. If it's on the 5 gigahertz, go all the way to the lowest channel or all the way to the highest channel, and that'll probably resolve your problem. Gregory Howard said, what is the best way to get this to you? I have a 3.5-inch IPS USB mini screen, PC temperature display, 8/64. Is that something you want to put in the computer? So Gregory, those kind of questions are probably best handled privately. Just reach out to me in email and explain to me what it is you want to do. What's the goal? And then we'll discuss it. William Dawson says hello from Florida. Hey, welcome in, William. Jim KJ3N said, I finally resolved the NAS performance issue. Turns out it's something I chose to do when I set it back up when I set it up back in 2014. Well, that doesn't really help me. You haven't. So how can I learn from your experience if you're that vague? I love to know what was the problem and what was the solution specifically so that I can learn from your experience. Telling me I fixed it doesn't help me at all. And I don't even remember talking about a NAS performance issue with you. So you'd have to remind me, I deal with people, dozens of people on a daily basis. And so unless something's an ongoing issue, one conversation I had one time, I'm not going to remember it. So you would help us out a lot if you'd say, I have this make and model of NAS, and my performance was running at XYZ speed instead of yada yada speed. And it turned out this feature called yada 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 had to be turned on or turned off. And now my speed is at this rate. That would be very helpful for us. Douglas wants to know, did the storm affect you the other day? Luckily for us, the storm primarily hit in East Phoenix, Southeast Phoenix. I'm in Northeast. So no, we did get a bit of it, but we didn't get what Mesa got. Mesa got hit hard. Now, every year this storm will hit different areas of the valley. It very rarely hits the entire valley. Sometimes it does, but it wasn't too bad here. We got some rain. It didn't last very long. I still think a big storm is in the works, and we just haven't gotten it yet. But the people in Mesa say, "Oh no, we got it. We're good." But that did not affect us very much. Not like it affected them. It was a major, major storm there, and it was a very minor storm for us. David Moore has continued his membership now on month 13. Thank you, David. Thomas Backenstow says you're in Glendale. Studio A is in Glendale. Studio B is not. The location of Studio B is kept secret because of the harassment I got at Studio A. But since that cat's already out of the bag, that's something I prefer not to talk about in an open public forum where people who want to attack me will use that information against me. So again, anything specific to my location, I would prefer you ask me privately, just so you don't inadvertently expose information that could be used to harass me. Not that you would do it, but it's a consequence because these videos are up indefinitely. And so people with nothing else better to do that want to harass, they hear me talk about something, answering somebody's question. They go, oh, that's his ISP. Oh, that's his carrier. Oh, that's something that's a store around the corner. They can start piecing together where I am. So I'll just leave it as Northeast Phoenix. That's as specific as I want to get for those reasons. When the channel was really, really tiny, it wasn't a problem. But now that I've attracted not you guys, but I've attracted a small group of losers, what am I going to do? The channel grows. There's a certain percentage of losers that come with it, and they just don't have anything else better to do. I mean, they'll eventually get old and die. But in the meantime, it's like dealing with a pesky mosquito. They don't scare me. It's just annoying. So these aren't people I've done anything to. So they have no justification for behavior towards me. What are you going to do? They're just not mentally sane. Trying to reason with an unreasonable person. It's kind of an unreasonable thing to attempt. So I just do my best to keep them guessing, and it seems to keep them happy when I have to research and try and figure out where I am. They can't do that and harass me at the same time. So if we can keep them preoccupied with that nonsense, I'm happy with that. Planet Cryos contributes $5. He says, hello, you. Hello, Planet Cryos. Thank you for your contribution, as always. Nick Caffrey said, where did these unhappy people come from? They're all over. They're just generally young, not always young, but they're always male. Always male. They're always alone. Typically they don't have any friends other than in the online world. They don't socialize. They don't go out much. They don't leave the house much. They have a clearly a mental condition that they don't acknowledge they have. So, you know, what can you do? As the channel grows and becomes more popular, you get to attract some people you didn't necessarily want to attract, but the benefit of it, of that sacrifice, is that we get this amazing group of people gathered here during these live videos, and that's just a consequence of it. But it's a very small portion. It's maybe less than 1% of viewers, but they can be very loud, and they try to make it appear that they're a bigger group than they really are by being loud and creating multiple accounts. It's really just a pathetic waste of time. But it's part of what happens when you have a growing YouTube channel. If the YouTube channel stays small, it's really unlikely you'll deal with it. But when you deal, you know, with 100,000 subscribers, it just gets worse and worse and worse the bigger you get. If I were to reach 1 million subscribers or more, you know, even having 1% of people being jerks, 1% of 1 million's a lot of people to do. So hopefully YouTube will work on the security side of things to protect their content creators. They haven't yet, but hopefully they'll get around to that someday and give us creators a way to forcibly unsubscribe viewers. Right now, they don't allow me to unsubscribe people. So people will hate watch using subscription notifications as a reminder to harass me. It's sad. Can you imagine going through life like that every day? It's just a crazy way to live. But they're out there, but they will die like the rest of us. So they're creating their own karma. We just have to outlive them. In the meantime, we ignore them. Borton said it's time for some Coke and chips. Hey, that sounds great. Okay, so there's our first boot up. Let's go back to Windows updates and see what other updates remain. You'll see we don't have any bloatware from Minisforum. You're just getting the potentially unwanted programs included with Windows. That's not really bloatware. Those are just PUPs, potentially unwanted programs. They're very small little shortcuts for the most part that are easily removable. Looks like we got all of our updates. We just check advanced options, make sure 0 available, good, good, good. And then let's make sure we are activated. So we'll just type in activation settings here, see if Windows is activated, and we are active. Perfect. It's perfect. I usually come down here and I right click and go to taskbar settings. And then I go to system tray icons that I want to see. I want to see the Bluetooth icon. I want to see Windows security information. I don't want these icons hidden. Microsoft Teams and Microsoft OneDrive, these are things I will uninstall. Those are more than just shortcuts. But to remove the items I don't want, like from the start menu, and I don't know why people whine about this so much. I mean, it must be just the laziest people on the planet, or they have nothing else better to do. But at the time it takes them to whine about it, they could have already removed them. You don't need any specialty software. You don't need to bog your computer down with any third-party removal tools. That's just worse than the problem you're trying to solve, in my opinion. Right-click on the item you don't want and choose uninstall. Watch. It's gone. What did that take? 2 seconds? And just repeat that. And sure, there might be 12 or 13 of them. But in the time I've spoken, I've already removed 4 or 5 of them. And they don't come back. They're gone. I mean, they might come back after a big service pack update, like the 23H2 might put them back. Or they might actually be things you want. So to make the assumption nobody wants these things is a bit preposterous and myopic. But people are people, right? Sometimes all they think about is themselves without any consideration of how that could benefit people. That obviously nobody wants this stuff. And they couldn't be more simple-minded to reality. And it frustrates me as a computer technician because I specialize in making sure the computer is configured to that individual user's requirements, not to your requirements, unless you're paying me. You do you. Let other people do other people. You know what I'm saying? Like let them be themselves and choose their um, preferences as you have the freedom to choose yours. Offer that same respect in return. All right, let's see. I'll look through here just for anything else I want to take out. Media player, I always replace this with VLC, as well as the movie and TV. That might be something I just took out of the start menu. And when I reboot, it'll update. I don't want this news. Again, these are just little shortcuts. They're not a big deal. Microsoft OneDrive, I don't use it personally. And if somebody who gets this computer wants Microsoft OneDrive, it's a free download to put it right back on there. But it starts every time the computer starts. And so I would consider OneDrive bloatware, and I would consider Teams bloatware as well. But they don't really compare to the bloatware of yesteryear of McAfee and Norton, which in some cases is still installed by some of the big system integrators. Whiteboard, I'll keep Minecraft Education Edition. It's potentially unwanted software. Mixed Reality Porter, also unwanted software. Mobile Plans is unwanted software for my customers and the way that I configure. You decide what's wanted and unwanted for you, right? I might push the green beans aside on my plate because I think they're disgusting. You might think they're amazing. Either one of us are wrong. I'm not going to start a campaign to encourage the restaurant to stop offering the green beans simply because of my selfish, narcissistic need or desire. Respect other people and other people's preferences, and we'll all get along fine. Xbox Game Bar, that cannot be removed. Xbox Live can be. We'll take that out. And I think that's pretty much it. I mean, that whole process was probably under 10 minutes with me yakking. If I focused and just did that without talking, I probably could have done in half that amount of time. And it never needs to be done again. So it's done. Now I'm going to go ahead and restart the computer because I want to see if that media player gets removed from the apps section. Some of these uninstalls don't actually complete until a restart. So don't freak out and forcibly remove something until you've restarted first, or you could damage the integrity of your registry or the stability of your operating system by outsmarting. You think you're outsmarting it when you're really just causing a problem. I can't tell you how often I see people do this. They're impatient, and instead of letting something settle in, they just go grab a hammer and brute force it. And that usually creates a problem, which is ironic because they thought they were fixing a problem, when if they'd have left it alone, they would have never had a problem to begin with. Because they tried to fix an imaginary problem, they created a very real problem. They just voluntarily did that to themselves. You're not going to be in business as a technician very long if that's your attitude. I just want you to know that. Now, I'm going to go over here to the Windows security, and we'll turn on app and browser control and dismiss the one account protection and dismiss device security as well, because I don't really worry about that yet. That may be something in a year or two from now that I have a changed attitude on. But for right now, in September of 2023, that's how I personally prefer. These are my preferences. This is how I generally set up all computers for clients, unless clients have specific needs or requests otherwise. And my clients appreciate that I make these decisions for them, and that's partially why they pay me. They figure if it's something I recommend removing, then they want it removed. Unless they say otherwise. We can check our AMD Adrenalin software and see if that's up to date. So media player is still in. It's taking it out now. Okay, so I put VLC on here. I'd run the optimizer on here. Usually fire up, I'll get rid of the chat icon. Go to taskbar settings. It says chat. I usually just turn that off. I don't know anybody who uses it. It's easy enough to turn it back on. And do I want Oh, I want to start up Microsoft Edge and get the welcome screen and stuff out of the way. I reopen it. It's better. Okay. Good here. We're up to date with Windows. I'll grab my flash drive with utilities on it, and we'll copy over Prime 95 and see how this thing does with heat. The internet, the nerds on the internet, not normal people, not regular everyday people, only the nerds have an unhealthy obsession with computer heat. It's one of the strangest phenomenon I've experienced in my career. This wasn't the thing in the 90s or even in the early 2000s, but it's become this weird anxiety and phobia, primarily from younger people who have an unjustifiable anxiety over the heat generated by a computer, which is very weird to me. If we were dealing with experimental equipment from MIT in a computer lab, a very different conversation. But with this consumer grade stuff, it's pretty well bulletproof unless you're doing something like blocking air vents, overclocking, overvolting. You're pushing the machine beyond its design specifications, in which case, you've made that bed. I got no sympathy for you if you decided to do that to yourself. Have fun. You know what I mean? Like, don't drag me into that. That's a waste of my time. That's not to say there aren't legitimate heat concerns with some computers, but they're few and far between in my 30 plus years of doing this for a living. There's only been a very small handful of times where heat was a cause of a problem. I think in my entire career, once every 3 years, I might see a heat-related problem on average. It's that uncommon. But I guess people are bored and need something to do. They need something to obsess about, even if it doesn't sequence in reality. And the difference is these aren't the people that would hire somebody to fix it. The people that complain the most about the heat problems are generally, in my experience, creating their own heat problems. They won't leave things well enough alone, and they won't take it somewhere to have it fixed. So just try to ignore those people because they don't offer any value to the community. They don't offer any value to sharing their experience, as far as I'm concerned. They're doing things they shouldn't be doing in most cases. It's resulting in consequences that they're now asking for help with when they just left it alone. They wouldn't be in that position to begin with. It's a self-created problem in many cases. Now, sometimes we do, we see a liquid cooler burn out and it can cause overheating problems. But most of the time, the overheating problems are self-created, in my experience. All right, let me look at testing software, and let's grab Prime 95 hardware monitor here. Hardware. Last time I've updated, might be old. Let's go ahead and run my optimizer here, and then we'll restart the computer, and then we'll run Prime 95 and see what kind of heat results we get. If you talk to people who own computers about the temperature of their computer, 999 people out of 1,000 are going to say, "What are you talking about? Who cares?" But if you go on the internet and talk to people about the heat of a computer, 999 out of 1,000 people are going to have a discussion about it online. It's a weird thing that people primarily it exists only online and not in the general population in reality. I'm fascinated by that as a business owner who deals with computer problems. If I were to believe the internet, I would think a lot of people, heat is the scourge of owning a computer. And it very rarely ever is the reality. Except, like I said, to people who either built their machine wrong, underpowered their cooling, or, they're overclocking or overvolting it. So in most cases, it's It's almost universally self-inflicted. Okay, so I'm going to go over here to HW info. This, by the way, this computer isn't making a sound. It is whisper quiet. We'll see if that changes as we work it. Let's do sensors only. Change my taskbar settings so I can see the eject without it being hidden. Safely remove, that's what I mean. Always shown. Okay. And again, I don't really even have to safely, I can just unplug the flash drive. But sometimes I do, sometimes it depends on my mood, I guess. I'm inconsistent with that. Now, with HW info running, where's our temps? So we're idling right now in the 40 degrees Celsius range. Let's start up Prime 95. And start running this test. We'll let it run for up to 20 minutes. And unless it's getting worryingly hot, so while the test runs, let me know if there's any technical issues you're dealing with at home or at work or that you're helping a friend with. See if myself or other members of the chat room can help you. Douglas Burchell put William Kim in timeout. You should not have, Douglas. William Lin is asking about a major Bachelor of Science in Public Health degree. I advise my moderators in blue to not hide anyone without checking with me first. Don't tell me after the fact. I cannot unhide them. So to William Lin, I apologize. I don't believe Douglas understood what you wrote, and then he punished you for his lack of understanding. This is not acceptable, Douglas. Please do not ever time out anybody again without first clearing it with me. If you want to bring something to my attention or to Marlena's attention, that would be a much safer thing than for you to dole out consequences to people without my approval. So again, to avoid any future confusion, just don't time people out unless they're being vulgar. If there is obvious vulgarity, that would be the exception. White Bear says, I'm not sure I'll ever understand the obsession with temperatures. Pretty much every time I've ever heard of a temperature issue, it is user error. Yeah, sometimes though, the motherboard makers can modify the default voltage settings in the BIOS in order to eke out a little more performance out of the CPU so that the end user is tricked into thinking the motherboard performs better than other motherboard manufacturers. When in fact, if you set those same over voltages to any motherboard, it would perform the same. It's a manipulation to simple-minded folks who don't really understand how things work, and instead they ritualize. And by ritualizing, you know, they know if I click here and I click here, I get this result. So therefore, that's how you accomplish that task. Even though half of the clicks may be unnecessary to accomplish the same task. They don't know enough to understand why those clicks give that result. And so they pass that information off to other people as instructions to follow. And they're not wrong. If you follow those instructions, you will get that end result in most cases. What they don't tell you is that you could have also done it in half the amount of clicks, but they didn't understand why those clicks were necessary. And so they've ritualized rather than understood why what they're clicking on is making these changes. And there's too much of that online. There's too much ritualization and not enough understanding of how things work, which leads to countless times I see documentation with excessive steps that could have been, in some cases, I've seen 12 steps where only 2 steps were needed, like ridiculous difference, simply because the person didn't understand anything beyond when you do this action, you get this reaction, but they can't tell you why. It drives me crazy. And they'll say, well, I was just trying to help. I was just trying to help by sharing my ritualization with others, encouraging others to ritualize too, which is causing harm. But I can't stop them. They have a right to say whatever they want. They can make up stuff. They can fictionalize everything around them. I can't stop them. I encourage everybody, when you're getting information online, always consider who the source is. And of course, verify, verify, verify. If it's information that you are thinking of sending to others, a lot of people will read a headline, they won't read the article, and then they'll start sharing that headline or sharing the article. And then the people they share it with do the same thing. They read the headline, they share the article. And then they're all assuming, because the headline is clickbait, that the article is expressing what they think it's expressing. Probably for 100 people that share the article, only 1 or 2 people actually read the article. It's maddening. So verify anything before you share it. Please make the internet a better place. And if it's something you don't care about, then don't share it. Don't spread it. How we're doing on our temps so far? Our test has been running about 6 minutes, I guess, and we're still below 80. I'm watching the left-hand side here. Now, it's difficult to evaluate gaming prowess of any hardware because there's so many tens of thousands of video games on the market. Everything from esports, simulations, retro games, and RPG, first-person shooters, yada, 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 yada. And then within each game, you have different versions and updates. And beyond that, you have all these different settings for resolution and different graphics features you can turn on or turn off. So for me to see any review, quite frankly, of a computer's ability to game, the content creator is picking games. I don't know what they're based on, popularity or what they have available. And they'll often tell you what settings they're using to get what frames per second. But it's highly unlikely that information is useful to any end user unless you're playing the exact same game with the exact same settings. You might think you're getting an idea of how the computer performs because if it does this in Call of Duty, then it should do that in Microsoft Flight Sim 2020. The two are completely unrelated. And then within the settings themselves, you might find it perfectly playable under certain settings that the reviewer would find it unplayable with those settings. So it's really something you feel individually. If there was a handful of games that we all played universally, then this kind of testing would make sense. But because of the variety of games, the number of games, the amount of variety of settings within each game, and depending on the monitor you're playing it on or multi-monitor, depending on the resolution, what frames per second you're looking for, everybody focuses on everything but actually their gaming skill. It's like everybody's focused on how to make the best piano keys, the best case for the piano, the best cooling for the piano, but nobody really plays the piano very well who cares about this stuff. And it's silly to me. It's like buying better pots and pans so you can be a better chef, or buying a better camera so you can be a better photographer, or buying a fancier car so you can be a better driver. There are 6-year-olds running 10-year-old hardware that can spank you at just about any game they play. And you could have the best hardware, overclocked. You could have a $10,000 gaming PC, and the 6-year-old using a 10-year-old PC will spank you in that game every time because they've invested more time and practice in the game. The game itself is not going to make you a better gamer simply because you've got a better video card, more RAM, or excessive cooling. Skill is skill. Thank goodness rich people just can't go and buy that, because I know a lot of people online would do that. It's something that can only be acquired through putting in the work. And putting in the work, regardless if you have a 10-year-old computer or a brand new computer you just hand built, you're still going to put the same work in. Now, if what you're doing is watching gaming and you're not actually playing, then this makes more sense, right? What does this resolution look like with, these settings? But make up your mind. Are you watching a movie or are you playing a game? When I played Halo on the Xbox, the graphics looked fine. And when the anniversary edition of Halo came out where they upgraded the graphics, it looked no different to me. The refinement of the graphics on the screen are periphery to me playing the game and the strategy that I'm focused on accomplishing the goals on the screen or that level. Just because the wall looks smoother or the gun that I'm holding is more refined, it doesn't make an ounce of difference to me. I don't even notice it. But maybe I'm the weird one. I don't know. I find the whole thing very strange. We're now at, about 9 minutes. Is it 9 minutes? It says it's about 11 minutes. And this thing is absolutely whisper quiet. I don't hear anything at all. Normally at this stage, the fans would be kicking up due to the heat being generated by the workload. This workload is an unrealistic workload. I do feel heat coming off of the side of the machine. Oh, very much off the top. So the heat is being vented up, but it is whisper quiet. Winston Liu renews his membership. Now he's on month 15. Thank you, Winston. Winston says, I'm a 15-month member from Vancouver, Canada. I hope to visit Vancouver. One of my favorite places for my brother to vacation to. He keeps trying to get me to go with him. And I let my passport expire, but recently got it renewed. So maybe the next time my brother invites me, I'll be able to say yes for the first time and go check it out. It looks beautiful. Nick Caffrey said, that is so true, Kerry. I bought a DSLR camera years ago, and I'm still a crap photographer. Cameras don't take pictures, people do. That's right. Can you imagine somebody sits in your dining room table and says, wow, this dinner's delicious. You must have amazing pots and pans. How offended would you be if you're the one who prepared that meal? Yeah, it was the pots and pans that made it good. Thanks for completely disrespecting my skill. Jim KJ3N said he's taken some rather nice camera shots with point and shoot cameras. Still, some basic skill counts. It's more important than the camera. You can take amazing photographs with any camera. Mark Gaines contributes £5. Mark joins us from Northern Ireland. He says, I like that mini PC. Also, check your PayPal. Yeah, I guess that's something I can do while we're waiting for this long torture test to complete. I also want to check the AMD Adrenalin software and make sure that's up to date. I forgot to do that. What do we have? Alan Linda sends a $77.77 Amazon gift card. He says, I'm paying ahead of time. We're heading to North Georgia for a 10-day vacation. I hope the tents will be more conclusive into being outside with my cousins. I think he meant conducive. Hopefully, the fall colors will be in bloom. All will catch up again upon our return to Arizona around the end of September. Hey, thank you, as always. Alan, thank you for contributing and supporting the channel. Enjoy your vacation. Stay safe. Mark Gaines sent $26.18 via PayPal. Thank you to Mark Gaines. And Gregory Howard sends a $50 Amazon gift card. And yeah, we'll have to talk about this temperature monitor. So if you send me an email, you should have my email address, Gregory. Tell me what it is you have and what it is you're wanting to do. I'm guessing you bought a temperature monitor screen and you want it installed in the computer you're buying from me, and you want to get it to me to install it for you. Am I understanding that correctly? If so, please write an email to me with that information, and happy to accommodate the request as long as there's a place to put it. I'd have to verify that we have the port available. I'm sure we can find space somewhere to place it. However, I don't know if you're going to have it external or internal. It's going to be tight if it's going to be internal. Thank you to Gregory Howard and to Mark Gaines and Alan Lindas for supporting the channel. Thank you for your generosity. It's appreciated very much. Wow, our temps are incredible. I wasn't expecting it to be this good. And again, the system is perfectly silent. And how many minutes? I have to walk closer to the screen and read it. Been running, about 16 minutes. I know the timer that's at the bottom of the test down here was a little over a minute before we started Prime 95. So when this gets to, let's say, 22 minutes, we'll call that 20 minutes, ballpark it. Because if it's not going to break even 80 degrees Celsius, then it's unlikely we'd ever have any heat-related problems with this machine. And again, it's unlikely you're going to have heat-related problems with any machine if you built it right. It's just an unhealthy obsession. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's unjustifiable. We don't have a world of computer owners just constantly battling heat-related problems. It's just an unbalanced amount of people with that unreasonable concern gathered in one location that can give you the impression that it represents a lot of people or the majority of computer owners, when in fact it's a very, very small fraction who are just quite vocal. You know how I know? Doing this for a living for over 30 years. That's not how I make my money. It's not from repairing computers that are overheating. It never has been. It is just weird. People talk about it like it's like everybody has these problems. Very few people ever have heat-related problems. Barry says any monkey can take a picture. Yes, but not necessarily a good picture. But if you take enough pictures, right, if you keep taking picture after picture after picture, some of those pictures are just going to be good just through the statistical, like, it's like if you're always bet on black on the roulette table, sooner or later it's going to come up as black. You know what I mean? You play long enough, you're going to win a few times. But that really has nothing to do with the camera, right? Whether or not you're taking a lot of pictures or you're taking good pictures, or the percentage of good pictures you take depends on your skill level as a photographer. Just randomly, blindly shooting photographs, you will eventually have some good ones, but you won't be able to count on them or count on a profession to be paid as a photographer if you're just gambling away luck in the hopes that some of the pictures are good enough to sell. So that's really a difference between a hobbyist and a professional. Ben Laird wants to know if they'll ever create a CPU that does not generate heat. It seems unlikely. The more work that's being done, the more heat's being generated. So if you want something fast, responsive, it's going to require more power in order to drive. It's sort of like a race car. If you want that race car to go faster, you're going to have to generate more power. In generating more power, you're going to consume more fuel. And you're also going to create more heat. It's just physics. I mean, if you want to study physics, you'd be better to understand this stuff. I think it's just a lack of understanding like thermodynamics and how things work. It's sort of a principle of the universe. The idea that they could make a rocket ship that doesn't get hot doesn't make any sense. How would the rocket go up without heat? So again, if it's something that really something you're interested in, there are academic courses you could take in physics and in thermodynamics that will explain all of this, so it won't be such a wonder to you. William Lin said he learned thermodynamics in general chemistry. Well, that's interesting. I didn't know they would teach that in chemistry, but Gary Tatum says he loves physics. Yeah, I got the gist of physics, but I don't necessarily want to study it. To me, it's not that great of an interest for me personally. Todd Wickham says, with my one good hand, I always take 5 or more pictures. There's bound to be at least one good one in there. Well, if you ever watch like the way paparazzi take pictures, they often won't hold the camera in front of their face. They'll hold the camera down by their chest, or they'll hold it up over their head, and they'll just keep snapping pictures, and they'll call the person's name with the hopes that when their eyes in that moment look over to them, they will have grabbed the shot. And then in post-processing, they can center the picture. Through post-processing, they can make the picture more sellable. But the idea is that you've got to capture the shot. So they're just constantly, just hear the camera shutters, chick, 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 chick. That's why they do that. Somewhere in all of those shots, they hope to have some sellable photos. John Inglis said, I'm a pro photographer and I still take crappy photos sometimes. Hey, even professional gamers have days where they game horribly. Even professional cooks have meals they've cooked. Look, are you expecting to be a robot? Are you trying to remove your humanity? Are you just never want to grow as a person? You're just going to say, this is as good as I'm ever going to be. I will never experiment to try and become any better. I'm always going to have the same mood and the same attitude every day like a machine. You would not be human to expect yourself to have the results of a robot. You would be dehumanizing yourself. So I would hope that anybody that's a professional in anything doesn't do the same exact thing over and over and over again, the same every single time, with never making a mistake, an oversight, being in a bad mood, or having other things distract or prevent them from the normal quality of their work. The difference between a pro and a hobbyist in that discussion is that the pro will see it through and make it work one way or another, even if it costs the pro money to fix what they've done. The hobbyist may walk away from it with no consequences. Would you mind checking the front door? Thank you. So now we are in 23 minutes. So I've let this test run much longer than I anticipated. And it looks like we're nowhere near having any heat problem. I'm very impressed with this. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this test and click OK here. And then we should see these temps instantly start to fall quite rapidly. That's how cool a CPU can cool off, and how fast a CPU can get very hot in seconds. And that's why cooling is so important. But cooling doesn't have to be challenging. Cooling doesn't have to be excessive overkill. Sometimes just the most basic of a cooler is all people need. But people like to go overboard with stuff, especially when they're online and they're enthusiasts. They don't know when enough's enough. They can never get enough. So they'll keep raising the bar and raising the bar because they have the time, because they have the money, and because apparently, it drives their interest. But it's by no means normal, and it's by no means anything a regular computer user has to be worried. I'm going to try Crystal Disk Mark, see what kind of performance we're getting out of this solid state drive. So we'll go back to my PC testing software, back over to Crystal Disk Mark Portable Edition. We'll drag that out. Like that. You see that time I didn't eject it first. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. We're going to go to Crystal Disk Mark and 64-bit. C drive, we'll do all the tests. We'll see what this comes out to. Peter VZ has been a member now for 3 months. He says, thank you for the just great community and to all the people in the chat. Harry Hulsman and Marlena DG. Well, thank you. Thank you for being a part of it. Okay, so when we see speeds over 3600, we know we're in Gen 4 range. Gen 4 can be anything from about 3700 to 7300. When we're at 4800, it kind of puts us in the middle of the performance range, and that's typically what you're going to find where system integrators are not going to go overboard with the high-speed RAM and high-speed storage, because they wouldn't sell enough computers and they would probably go bankrupt. That's for the enthusiasts to do. Most people will never notice a difference from using the computer at 4800 megabytes per second versus 7300 megabytes per second, unless they're running benchmarks like this. Just how fast the computer boots and how long things take to load. Most human beings can't sense that milliseconds of difference that makes. Some can, but again, very few people. A lot of people are just fascinated with benchmarks, and they're just spending money needlessly to see bigger numbers, even though it has no real impact in reality. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing illegal. It's just, for me as a technician, I don't make my living selling people things they don't need and overcharging them for the fastest thing, when in fact, that for the end user themselves, they'll see no difference, but they will absolutely experience a difference in their wallet. My customers appreciate that about me. A lot of other techs will oversell and tell them all the benefits to buying the more profitable item so that the tech can make more money. But that's not really looking for your customers. I don't think that's morally right to charge people to then charge them. You're charging them to charge them, which is ridiculous. All right, let's see. What did I get from Amazon? Oh, this isn't mine. This is yours. Oh, I don't mind. Would have been quieter for you to open it than for me, because I'm sure everybody got to hear the crinkling of the box right up close to the microphone. ASMR package opening. All right, so looks like 3,500 on the sequential rates, 4,800 on the sequential reads. It's decent. Again, most people won't see any benefit if those speeds were twice what they're reported at, other than what they see in benchmarks. Some people just live and breathe by benchmarks. Nobody I know that's a professional cares as far as that goes, unless a customer is specifically paying you. And those customers, those are good customers to have. Those are the customers that are quick to throw money, to have the latest and greatest. I've had a few customers like that. Most customers want to spend the least amount possible and want the job fixed as quickly as possible. Because typically you're billing by the hour, so you just want it done in an hour. Hobbyists, they just mess around, spend money on stuff just because it's a hobby. They enjoy messing around. The difference between a hobby and a profession is hobbies cost you money and professions pay you money. So if you have a business where you're losing money year after year, After, I think, 3 years, the IRS will say you don't have a business, you have a hobby, and you can no longer deduct it. You do have a time limit with how long your business can take losses. Unless it's, there's certain exceptions to that, like these big corporations that can take millions in losses, but that's answering to their shareholders. That's a different thing. The Firax says, should I consider something else to cool my i7-13700K? You have a Noctua NHU14S. What problem are you trying to solve? Is the cooler too loud, or is your CPU overheating? And what are you doing that's causing the overheating? So I'd have to know, you know, I can't answer if you should consider replacing something unless I understand what your goal is. What are you trying to achieve? There's our final benchmark numbers on the solid state drive. And again, that's upgradable. You can take the drive out. You can order this bare bones and put your own drive in it. Do keep in mind that the faster things run, the hotter they get. So if you were to put a high performance NVMe drive in there, you probably want to get one with a heat sink, unless this has heat sinks in it. I'd have to open it up and look. But the way that this comes stock from Minisforum, it's ready for you to rock and roll. You don't need to open it up and modify it. They've already done all that for you. That's what you're paying them for. Otherwise, you might as well just build your own machine. Now, the AMD Adrenalin software I wanted to check out. So let's look at this red box. What is it? Oh, that's Prime 95. Let's get rid of that. And let's just type in AMD down here and see if Adrenalin software is there. Software app. Skip this. Check for updates. Yeah, looks like we got an update to the Adrenalin software. If you have an AMD system, it's critical that you keep your Adrenalin software up to date because that's going to improve your security, your reliability, and your performance. It is absolutely critical. If you have an Intel system, you don't have to worry about this nonsense. This is something that comes along with gaming, and it's just there to, you know, they have some specific modifications or tweaks for certain games to perform better because games are all written very differently, using different programming languages and different programming techniques. They all don't run the same. And so in order to optimize the hardware to perform as good as it can with that specific game, things like AMD Adrenalin offer certain customizations and optimizations for specific games for people that are just die hard into a specific game or a specific set of games to improve their gaming experience or to make the most out of it. Businesses, we don't generally see much in the way of AMD for workstations. Maybe in the servers, but not in the workstations. I don't have a single client that runs a business with an AMD computer. They don't want to deal with stuff like this. And that's their decision. It's not mine. It doesn't matter to me. If I'm fixing an AMD computer or I'm fixing an Intel computer, it's all the same. If they did have AMD computers, this would be part of my maintenance package to always make sure that this gets updated. And that's unique to AMD. It's not something I do with Intel. Mikeman wants to know, should I turn on turbo power limit for my Intel 10700? Another forum mentioned when asked on another issue, my CPU cooler isn't enough for my processor. I would place your cooler with one that's adequate. Instead of trying to force the wrong parts to run together, I would focus on getting the right parts, and then you don't have to goof around with stuff like this. That's not a normal thing people have to do. But when you don't build it right, then you're creating your problems. So if you want to invite more problems by making these changes, I can't tell you what's going to happen, but I won't be surprised if you start having consequences from that. Build it right. Get the cooler replaced. That would be my advice. I wouldn't have sold a computer the way you built it, because then you as a customer would be upset with me that the computer's not running optimally. And you'd be upset that perhaps I don't know what I'm doing and that I ripped you off. What you did to yourself, I could not do to a customer. Not if I ever want that customer to come back, and not if I want to sustain a business. And so if a business isn't going to do it, like as a professional tech isn't going to do it, you shouldn't do it either, unless you're willing to deal with the stuff, understand that when you make those decisions, you're also making the decisions to deal with this nonsense, and it'll never end. It'll just be one thing leading to the next thing. There'll be consequences to making those changes. And if you don't mind that, it gives you something to do, keeps you entertained, have fun. But I certainly couldn't run my business that way and expect to stay in business or expect to have happy customers. Got to build it right. And then life gets a lot easier after that. As I mentioned, I am working on a problem one of my customers has. The computer started locking up, and it seemed like the Samsung NVMe driver was causing the problem. And after I removed the NVMe driver from Samsung, system seemed fine. Now they're telling me the computer's blue screening, and it never did that before. So I'm baffled. So I'll probably be heading back over to my clients after hours and take a look at what's going on there. The computer's built with the exact same motherboard, processor, RAM, storage, and configuration as all the other machines in the office in order to make support easier. And it's baffling, when you have everything the same, but one particular computer is acting differently than the rest when they're otherwise identical in every way. And it never did that for me, right? I was able to replicate the lockups, but I never saw it blue screen. And after I made the change, I couldn't get it to lock up again. When I left, it was working. Today, they tell me it's blue screening out. This is very strange. Something's wrong with the computer. I don't know if it's a hardware problem or a software problem. Did our internet go down? I'm still connected. Yeah, so it looks like there's 2 internet connections here. And it looks like, no, we should be online. Anyway, there's 2 internet connections here. It looks like the one we don't use for broadcasting went down just now. And see that so the tablet that I'm looking at the chat room on is on the internet connection that's down. But I'm looking over at the router, and the router says it's fine. Very strange. Oh, now the router's come up with an exclamation point that tells me it's all fine. It's really nice when you've got a router that gives you an LED or a symbol. In this case, I get a big exclamation point on the front of the router. And I know it's not a computer problem that I have to diagnose. I know that the router is no longer getting communication from the modem, and there's nothing I can do. It's happening from the ISP. And that makes diagnosing so much easier. Otherwise, you have to walk up to the router, look at the little tiny LEDs, look for the one with the little world icon, and see if it's the normal color. Normally it'd be blue or green, and it'll either be off or red. You have to look for it, intentionally. With this TP-Link router I've got here, it just puts a big exclamation point right on the face of the router. You can't miss it. And then I know there's nothing for me to diagnose. Maybe I could unplug the cable modem and plug it back in. That's the most I can do. And likely because we didn't have any power outage or brownout, that's not going to solve it. It's likely something happening over at the cable company that's beyond my control. And thankfully, because we're on the other internet connection, it hasn't affected us. So whatever that is, I don't know. But in the meantime, I think, did this finish downloading? Let me check. Because this was downloading on that internet connection that just went down. No, it's going to be stuck now indefinitely, waiting for the internet to come back up. What are the odds that that happens when I'm doing an update, right? Didn't go down. Like if I would have done this update earlier on and gotten it out of the way, wouldn't have impacted us. This is no big deal. It's not like I got to capture this on screen anyway. When the internet comes back up, it'll finish the download. It'll upgrade the Adrenaline software. Pretty much the system's done. So we're looking essentially, one more time, we're looking at a $1,000 box here. There's a $200 coupon at Amazon right now that brings it down to $800. And this is probably faster than the computers most of you are using to watch this on right now. If you're into gaming, this is a nice gaming PC that's portable, it's small, and it has discrete graphics, but it's by no means the best gaming PC you could buy. Clearly, there are graphics cards that sell for more than the whole computer. So depending on how finicky you are, how demanding you are, and how much money you're willing to spend, adjust your expectations accordingly. But what I have ascertained in this video, in fact, let me go full screen on camera one since there's really nothing to look at. Let's go full screen, camera one. What I've been able to ascertain in this video is the build quality, the configuration of how Minisforum is shipping the operating system, which there wasn't many updates that were missing. We have the latest service pack in there, right? We're running 22H2. And we have lots of I/O on here with regards to USB ports and video outputs. We have plenty of upgradability with regards to upgrading RAM and storage. And apart from having to remove these rubber feet to get to the screws, I think that part is really the only complaint I've got. If they want, if Minisforum wants to say this is easy to get into, then stop hiding the screws on them. They could have made these little rubber silicone feet a little shorter, cut the ends off of it so the screws were exposed, or mold the rubber feet with holes that line up with where the screws are so that you don't have to remove the rubber feet. I don't know why Minisforum keeps making what I consider to be an error in judgment here. I understand if you're trying to make something really cheap, really inexpensive, and you're going to suffer the consequences of buying cheap stuff. I kind of feel like the rubber feet covering the screws is something you see on cheaper products. This product is not a cheaper product. It's not cheaper in how it's equipped. It's not cheaper in how it's built. And so to use that cheaper design of covering the screws with the rubber sticky feet, just feel it's lacks class. I think that, again, they could have just made the rubber feet a little shorter so that the screws remained exposed, or they could put small holes through the rubber feet, just mold the rubber feet that way. They're black screws, you're not going to notice them anyway. Then getting into the machine would be much easier, less deterrent, it would be more obvious and more intuitive and more user-friendly and upgradability that way. They're removing some of the user-friendliness by having to force you to remove the feet. And the feet they never stick again the same way. And every time you have to open it up, they're just going to fit looser and looser until one day it just won't stick anymore. You're going to have to get some glue or something and figure out another way to make it stick, which is completely avoidable by just simply not making the rubber feet as long as they are to cover the screws, or by putting holes through the rubber feet so that way the rubber feet never have to be removed under any circumstance. As a technician, I don't consider myself, one, a plumber, nor do I consider myself somebody who applies stickers, right? Anybody can put a sticker on. It shouldn't be the job of a technician to have to reapply stickers when I'm done working on a machine. It feels cheap. So other than that, I don't really have any suggestion for improvement here. I think Minisforum has done an excellent job, and I think if you tried to build something like this, it would cost you way more than $800 to build what you're getting here. So I think it's a great value for the money, and Minisforum have a reputation for building quality and having great support if you need it. Whereas if you build it yourself, you're on your own in that regard. So, there's convenience. There's the size of the package. You're never going to be able to build it that small and that compact and have discrete graphics. Very unlikely. And if you were, it would cost you a lot more money. I think they've got a nice winning combination here. And I'm glad to see, getting outside of those budget N100 and N95, $150, $200 boxes, which are great for people who only want or can afford the bare minimum. But for the rest of us who want, to actually use our computers for productivity, or even in this case for gaming, it's nice to see machines at this level that are below $1,000. So yeah, thumbs up for me all the way. I would have no hesitation in recommending this for my clients, even my business clients. It's got the horsepower. And again, yeah, we have to make sure that AMD Adrenalin software is up to date, but that's just one additional thing. It's not that big of a deal. I can't get over how quiet the machine is, and its thermal performance was outstanding. Given that my internet connection is all flaky now, I guess that's the big hook coming out to pull me off stage. So I guess we'll go ahead and wrap things up. Let me just take a quick look here in the chat and see if there's any last questions that I can answer for you guys. And then other than that, we'll wrap it up for today. Armando wants to know, if you go to performance, you have the ability to manage the video card options. Well, given that we've lost our internet connection, I don't know if we're stuck on that screen or if we can manipulate the options. I can take a look. So it's going to be HDMI input. And we'll turn off one. Under performance up here. There's tuning. Advisors and metrics. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's what you have under the performance tab. Let's see if there's any other questions I can answer here. You don't have to preface your question by telling me it's a question. When you ask your question, as a human being, I'm able to discern that what you just wrote was a question. It's weird. I have a question. You don't need to tell me you have a question. You just need to ask your question, and I'll be able to discern that it's a question. Did you think I would be confused? I don't know if that's a question. Cracks me up. Let's see. James Brady said he's not had a good experience with Minisforum. I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm always interested to hear, actual end user feedback with their experience. I think that's the only time I've ever heard anybody complain. But, I don't know what the problem is or what your expectations were. I don't know if you're a reasonable person. But I can tell you that in my experience, Minisforum has shined above and beyond, specifically when compared to other mini PC manufacturers that are essentially non-existent when it comes to support. If you need some assistance with reaching out to Minisforum. If perhaps you're emailing the wrong place, or I don't know, you could email me and let me know what the problem is you're trying to get resolved. And perhaps I can give you the right contact information. I mean, you should be able to just get it right from their support on the site, but I would be very curious. In my experience, when I've had people, you know, when I work with a company that's always been good, and I reach out and somebody reaches out to me and says that company's horrible, when I go to talk to those people, a lot of times I find those people have very unrealistic expectations. They expect the company to, I don't know, just do something that's not normal. I don't know you and I don't know what the problem is, but if you want to email me with your concern, I can look to see if I can help you with it. It's pretty unusual to hear anybody complain about Minisforum. Todd Wickham says, thanks, Carrie. See you next time around. Oh, thank you, Todd. Peter VZ contributes €1. Thank you, Peter. How's Mitch? Oh, you know what? I forgot. Mitch did send us a video update. Thank you for reminding me. Let me find it. Did not have it set up yet, so I have to add media source. There it is. We'll add that OBS.
Hello, Uncle Kerry and everybody in chat. This is your Uncle Mitch coming to you from beautiful Halong Bay. I'm on a 3-day cruise. I have to tell you that it has rained off and on every single day since I've got here, but we've got a little break in the weather on this beautiful cruise, and so yeah, miss you guys, and I'll send other video of my adventures as they happen later.
All right. So we just heard there from Mitch joining us from Vietnam, and apparently enjoying the rainy weather there. Thank you for the reminder. Yeah, and hopefully we'll get some more short video clips from Mitch as he traverses around Vietnam. That was beautiful, wherever he was. Oystein says, that's amazing, Mitch. Well, hopefully Mitch will be watching this later. Frankie B pops into the chat room, says, hello all. Always good to see our friend Frankie. Just joining us here at the end as we're wrapping things up, getting ready to say goodnight, and just looking at any final questions I can address here before we wrap it up. Almost wrapped it up without playing the Mitch video. That was close. John English wants to know if I got his super chat. I didn't see one from you, John. Let me look under viewer activity. I'll tell you what, I'm going to go through those super chats and say thank you to these kind folks who've contributed via today's live stream. We'll start out with the first. That's Paul O'Brien, our good friend Peter Laycock, who renewed his membership today. Thank you, Buster. He also contributed 20 pounds. You're the best, Buster. Thank you again for hanging out with us and for your continued support and generosity. Peter VZ and Craig Casabona contributed. I think I missed Craig's contribution. Craig contributed $20 via Super Chat. Thank you, Craig. Ben Laird and Rob Warren. Might have missed Rob's there. He contributed, I'm not even sure how to say that. It's 0.79 of 79 pence, I guess. John Inglis, there it is, contributed £5. Thank you, John. David Moore with £2. And Rob Warren again with 79 pence. I guess I missed a bunch of these. And Rob Warren again with 79 pence. Paul O'Brien with €2. 3D Everything with $20 super chat. John Science Rocks renews his membership now on month 3 of membership. Right on. Thank you, John. Avery Ramstorff contributed $4. I guess I missed a bunch of you guys. I apologize. I was on the desktop screen for that whole Prime 95 thing, and I didn't see any of these. David Moore renews membership now for month 13 he's on. Planet Cryos contributes $5, and Mark Gaines with £5. Winston Liu is now a member for 15 months, and Peter VZ a member now for 3 months, and also contributes €1. So my thanks to all of you, and the PayPal and Amazon gift cards from Alan Lindas. Thank you for your very generous Amazon gift card. Thank you, of course, to Mark Gaines for the $26.18 PayPal contribution, and to Gregory Howard, who sent a $50 Amazon gift card. Thomas Tidwell sent in $10 via PayPal. And before the stream started, Paul O'Brien sent a $10 Amazon gift card. So again, you guys make it possible for me to continue doing these videos as frequently as I've been doing them. There were no videos Wednesday or Thursday because I'm trying to get some computers finished and shipped out that customers have paid for. And I'm trying to get a couple others buttoned up so I can put them up for sale here real soon. Hopefully sooner rather than later. And I have coming up, I've got a TerraMaster NAS to review. I've got a couple other mini PCs on the way to review. And I've got a couple other builds to finish up using some of the older hardware that I have, some 10th gen stuff that just need to go in cases of power supplies and then get them priced and get them out of here. I want to get all these machines out by the end of this month. And I've only gotten 3 or 4 out of 12. And I'm already 2 weeks into the month with 2 weeks left. So if I repeat what I've already done, I'm only going to get through 2/3 of what I have. I need to step up my game. But as long as I've got to deal with customers calling with issues, that always takes priority. So probably either later tonight or this weekend, I got to go to my clients and try and figure out what's causing this computer to act so erratically. It's very strange. And they have a couple of spare computers. We haven't resorted yet to just swapping it out. I really want to know what's causing the problem. And I may even bring it back here to test it, but they don't want anything of theirs filmed. So I can't share that with you, unfortunately, but I can tell you about it once I have it all done. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. And thanks to Mitch for sending us the video clip there, checking in with us from Vietnam. Hopefully he's having a good time out there. Thanks to all of you for watching and participating in today's video. Thanks to Minisforum for sending the computer for review. And of course, thanks to Camera Girl for the camera work and thumbnail used in today's video. A shout out one more time to the folks over at $300 Data Recovery, the cheapest professional data recovery service, which is also the highest rated data recovery service on Yelp on the planet. If you ever need data recovery or know anybody who does, save them the heartache of these companies that well, they essentially rip people off, as far as I'm concerned. Don't even waste your time with them. Do your own research and you'll see what I'm talking about. $300 data recovery is a fraction of what data recovery companies charge people, typically $1,200 to $2,000. Also, if you're ever looking for a Windows or Microsoft Office license, be sure and check out our friends at VIP CDK Deals, where you can save big money on legitimate Windows and Microsoft Office license keys. This company's been around like 14, 15 years. They're not selling stolen keys or anything like that. It's all legitimate. And you have 30 days support, guaranteed the product key works. If you buy a product key and you don't use it for 30 days and then you find out it doesn't work, I'm not saying you're not going to get support, but it's like trying to return something to the store that you bought over a month ago. Sometimes the store will take it back, sometimes they won't. It's usually a 30-day return policy. It's very normal in the industry. So I'm suggesting wait until you need a product key to buy it. That way, if you do need any support, and you likely won't, but just in case you do, won't be any question, because that appears to be type of behavior a scammer would exhibit. So you need the product keys, buy them at that time. That would be my suggestion. The price does fluctuate a little bit based on exchange rates for currencies. The product price is always the same. It's just that the exchange rate changes. As a result, it's hard for me to specify exactly how much it's going to cost depending on what the exchange rate's doing that day or that week or that month. But generally under $17 for a Windows 10 Pro key. Windows 10 Pro keys can be used to activate Windows 11 Pro. You don't need to install Windows 10. You just use the Windows 10 Pro key, and you can use it to activate Windows 11 Pro one time. And you can also activate Windows 10 Pro one time too, because Windows 10 offers a free upgrade to Windows 11. Why spend more on the Windows 11 Pro key when you can save money buying the Windows 10 Pro key and it activates exactly the same? Office 2016 is still available for sale. It's the cheapest version of Office also. It's like $27. And you do not need a Microsoft account to activate it. All the other versions of Office, you will need a Microsoft account to activate. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just something I don't do because I'm building machines for clients. I don't put my account on a client's computer. And the expiration date for Windows 10 is October 14th of 2025. That's, I believe, the same expiration date for support of Office 2016 and 2019. If you get Office 2021, end of life is 1 year later. You only get one additional year of support. So, and each newer version costs more. So decide, is it worth paying more for Office 2019 when its end of life is exactly the same day and year as Office 2016? Why would you pay more for it? Just buy the Office 2016. And with Office 2021, it's more money than Office 2019, which is more money than Office 2016. And you'll get one additional year before end of life. Is it worth it? It's up to you. Thank you again for watching. All the links for everything we've discussed are in the video description below this video. I'll look forward to seeing you all again very, very soon. And until next time, bye for now.